I believe there is consensus on electoral reform. But my question isn't specifically about that. I ran in the election of 2011, and as you know, that involves a lot of door knocking. One experience that really stuck with me was I spoke to a gentleman who said he does not vote because politicians are all the same. They say exactly what you want to hear during the election campaign, and then they just turn things around and do whatever is convenient for them. So my question to you is, what do you say to people who don't vote, to those who did vote for you based on what you said you were going to do, only to have you turn around and not do what you say you're going to do?
Yeah, no. Great question. And thank you. And it's one that I've obviously been struggling with over the past months. The commitment I made repeatedly and explicitly on electoral reform, I made because it really mattered to me. And it does really matter to me that we improve our democracy. And I know that there are a lot of people out there, actually the vast majority of Canadians, who, yes, want to see us improve our democracy. I also know that it's really important that when it comes to changing our democracy, we do it right. I mean, everyone can see that, moving forward on increasing cybersecurity for our political parties, for Elections Canada, yeah, that's something that's important to do, creating more transparency in fundraising, making it easier for people to vote by turning back the Unfair Elections Act. Those are meaningful changes that we know and can be very comfortable are going to leave us better off in the future as a country. Electoral reform, changing the way we vote, is a big change that will and could have far-reaching consequences for our country and needs to be taken very, very seriously. It's more than just who might win a few more seats in the next election. It goes to fundamentally how we operate, how we value, and how we hear diverse voices within our parliament. And for me, and I've been arguing this since long before I became leader, I always felt that we could make a clear improvement to our political process by offering people to not ever have to vote strategically again, to give a preference on your ballot, to rank your ballot. A lot of people don't like it. A lot of people say it favors Liberals. What it does is it favors parties who are good at reaching out to find common ground with broad groups of Canadians, to say, can I be your second choice? That's what it does. I think that's probably a good thing, but I've heard very clearly that people don't think that's a good thing. Or that they think it would favor Liberals too much, and therefore I'm not going near it, because I am not going to do something that everyone is convinced is going to favor one party over another. So then we get down to the remaining choices. A referendum, which we've seen recently what happens when referendums go, whether it's Brexit, whether it's the Italian one, whether it's, there is a lot of divisiveness, particularly on an issue that is very important to a small number of people, but not nearly as important as jobs and healthcare and educational opportunities and reconciliation and a whole bunch of other issues to a lot of other Canadians. It's an important one, but it's not the only one. And the danger of a divisive, a division within the country and a campaign that is likely to get a lot of heated rhetoric at a time where we're looking for stability in face of a very unpredictable and unstable political context around the world, I don't think a referendum is the right way to go. And then there's proportional representation, which is the one that a lot of people like. One of the things that's great about Canada, and I've talked about it a few times in this, is we're a country that focuses on common ground. We're a country that focuses on the things we have in common with each other, even though we're different. And the differences in Canada, whether it's east to west, south to north, English to French, every background imaginable, Indigenous, non-Indigenous, urban, rural, left, right. There are so many, there are more differences within Canada, within Canadians, than within just about any other country in the world. And yet, better than any other country in the world, we've figured out how to make those differences a source of strength. We've figured out how to remember that the things that unite us are always more important than the things that divide us, that differentiate us from each other. And our political systems have worked because people of every different background, every different corner of the country come together to form governments of different types. You have governments that have better representation from the West or the East, or better representation amongst Quebecers or non, or more Indigenous communities supporting them than others. But writ large, we have big groupings that include the diversity of Canada that people lean on, and that people draw on, and that people find their voices for. And if we were to make a change or risk a change that would augment individual voices, that would augment extremist voices and activist voices that don't get to sit within a party that figures out what the best path for the whole future of the country, like the existing three big parties do, I think we be entering an era of instability and uncertainty, and we would be putting at risk the very thing that makes us luckier than anyone else on the planet, the fact that we look at our differences as something to draw on and discover and build on, as opposed to emphasize and highlight. So for me, as strongly and as passionately as I believed that we could move forward on improving our electoral system, and as much as I understand what you say about cynicism, where someone keeping a promise, saying they're going to keep a promise and then not being able to keep that promise, I recognize a higher responsibility even than that. And that is the responsibility every Canadian Prime Minister has to keep this country together and united and focused on the things that unite us rather than the things that divide us. And it is because I felt that it was not in the best interest of our country or of our future that I turned my back on that promise. And I know people will be disappointed, yep. But this was my choice to make. And I chose to make it with full consequence of the cost that is possibly going to come to it. But I will not compromise on what is in the best interest of Canada. That's what Canadians elected me for.